Welcome to Measured Gaming. I'm Pete, joined as always by the Mortalk of the Australian bush, Luke, the Dark Prince Ingram. How are you doing, Luke?
I'm very well, and yourself?
All good, mate. All good. And also joined by our supreme leader, the Overlord, Joel McGraw, who's got a massive herdstone bursting out of his pants for the new Beasts of Chaos book. How are you going, Joel?
Yeah, good, boys. How are you?
Good, good. Now, Joel, I did say massive, but I've got the General's Handbook here and it says maximum 4 inches for a herdstone.
Yeah.
Sound about right?
It's changed a little bit. Battle Tome trumps the fucking General's Handbook, doesn't it?
And we've got a special guest tonight, Michael Thompson, all the way from Rockhampton. How are you doing, Michael?
Not Rockhampton.
Thanks for joining us. Now, the topic of the show tonight, we're talking about match play at points levels other than 2,000 points. The reason for that is that we've got Michael on the show to talk about his recent experience at RCGT up in Queensland, which was a 2,500 point match play tournament. So, Michael, maybe if you could start us off by talking about how the tournament went and how you found it different from a 2,000 point event. Anything that you found in terms of list building, list design, how the games played out. How was RCGT for you, buddy?
RCGT was good. 2.5 is something different to build with or build for. I took Nagash in the first cohort. I found that there were a lot of behemoths. Someone was very keen to take 4 grade unclean ones, or 3 grade unclean ones, Eroticus and Glocken. So, yeah. I saw Michael from the Failed Charge have to play 3 plays of Arcane Power against that list. So, yeah, that was quite interesting. List design, you're finding that you have to, you got to get four lots of battle line in. You can take 5 behemoths. It's quite interesting. There was quite a few different lists out there between the 40, 42, 41 players that went. When paying,
how'd you end up going?
I went 3-2, come 15th. It was quite a slog.
Did you find it, when you say it's quite a slog, did you find it heavy going? Did the games take longer?
Yeah, they do. I think at 2.5 you have, quite a few extra heroes, so your hero phases are longer. AOS 2, all the summoning's available for free now. So you're taking models off, bringing models on. The 2.5 hour time limit was, maybe not quite enough. And that's not a shot at Evan or the Redlands gaming crew who ran it. It was just, I know of a few games that quite didn't get finished or even to turn 5. So, yeah.
How many of your 5 did you finish, Michael?
I finished all my games.
Good on you.
Yeah.
Attaboy.
Yeah, well, either way, I got the most points and didn't need to get to turn 5, or as Adam and Chris will tell you, that they absolutely stormed through my list in 3 turns. So, yeah, I was just lucky, I think. Or unlucky, depending which way you look at
it.
And Joel, sorry, Luke, go on.
Look, one thing about that, I mean, look, obviously the time with the 2,500 point games, that's obviously a major part of it. But even the General's Handbook itself says 3+ hours. So I guess it's just something that needs to be factored in with the tournament organisers.
Yeah.
To try and obviously get that done. It's fine for some armies. But there's going to be some armies that just are always going to struggle to get done in that time.
Yeah, well, even with the new Stormcast having half their army off the board, and then, when it's their turn at the end of their movement phase, they're bringing it on, setting it up at 9 inches away. And this is nothing against any Stormcast players or anything, but it just simply takes time. And when you're at 2.5, there's just that extra model count.
And you make a good point as well about the 8 heroes. That kind of hero phase complexity multiplies up, and yeah, that's a good point that could slow you down a little.
Yeah, it certainly can.
We had a 2,500 point tournament of our own at the club in Bendigo recently. It was the club championships. Joel, you did all right?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if you can see it in the back there, but that's the trophy. Yeah, coming first in my first ever tournament outside of 1,000 points is pretty good. Yeah, so I took Slaanesh, so something that you don't normally see too often, but just running, I had Archaon, a couple of Exalted Great Demons, 5 units of 5 Hellstriders and a couple of other heroes here and there. And I think I was like 7 or 8, no, it was like 10 drops, I think. So, yeah, none of my games went past turn 3. And I finished in about an hour and a half, I think.
How many did
got to play. How many depravity? I can't remember what I topped, but I think the most would have been against Pete. And I reckon I was up at about 80 or 90 in 2 turns.
Yeah, the guy that took Slaanesh to RCGT, he had Archaon and I think it was 6 hero chariots.
Yeah.
And he got 120, I believe.
Wow.
So,
not bad.
Yeah,
for every chariot he lost, he was bringing another back or something. It was not cool.
Mm-hmm. No, it's really good. Really good.
So our game for the club champs, I took a 1-drop Bloodtooth's Battalion, and what I did with my list and the reason actually I'll bring it up on the screen. The reason I particularly enjoyed playing at 2,500 points was that it gave me the opportunity to do something that you normally couldn't do, which is that I got Gordrakk in a big battalion. For anyone who doesn't know, Gordrakk's command ability gives 3 dice to charge and +2 attacks on all melee weapons to an entire battalion. So if he's in the battalion, that's himself and the whole rest of your army. So look, it was 24 models, I think, which isn't a hell of a lot for a 1,000 point game, never mind 2,500. But it was all about the smashing and bashing and crashing into people turn 1 and having some fun. And yeah, like I said, it was an opportunity to do something that you couldn't normally do, which was to get Gordrakk in a big battalion. Had some success with it, not unmitigated success. It's fair to say I got tabled by Joel in 2.5 turns. Managed to repay the compliment to you though, Luke, when took Nagash off pretty swift with that long charge over the top of your chaff screen. So yeah, it was eventful games, that's for sure. But yeah, that's just something to think about. And one of the things that I've enjoyed about playing at different points levels this year, there are some things that are literally impossible to do at 2,000. The 2,500 point level does open up those possibilities, like putting Gordrakk in a big battalion. That was that's living the dream for a mega boss. Is there any lists out there for the factions that you guys play that just physically would not work at 2,000? What, that 2,500 opens up the door?
Yeah, look, I've got one. Not competitive in the slightest, but it's about the only chance you'll ever get to run Nagash, Ark and the Black, Neferata, Manfred, Purple Sun, and a Port in one list. Not going to win, but that's not the point.
And what you take the dogs and that's it.
Yeah, you get 40. There's a few points. You get maybe 30 wolves or so, but that's not what it's about, really.
But going back to Pete's question, that's I think RCGT, you'll see that. I think there was 5 or 6 Nagashes. I took Nagash to Ardfist in Melbourne, and I was the only one with him down there. I think that'll show you the difference between 2,000 and 2.5, and what the viability of it all is.
Yeah.
Just touching on that point too, I think when we play a lot of 2K games, right? You get into that grind where it's like almost Groundhog Day when you play games. It's like, I'm taking the exact same list, but I've just substituted 1 or 2 models out for, another unit kind of thing. So it's good to, I don't know, not only just play with more of your collection, but just try out new shit, which might be viable in a larger or a smaller game than what it is in your general 2K.
Yeah. Well, I think that showed in your list you designed a new list from the bottom up. It wasn't your 2,000 point list with a 500 point monster tagged on the side. That really showed up, the list worked in its own right.
Mm.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's an important point that you make, that it shakes you out of your normal routine, and I think that's important whether we're talking about 2,500 points or 1,000 points. Rob Symes was talking the other day about mastery of the system, understanding all aspects of the game from top to bottom. And I think that playing at different points levels contributes to that. So, for example, if you think about Usain Bolt and how he trains for the 100 meters, if you think that he trains for a 100-meter sprint by doing nothing but running 100-meter sprints, you're dreaming. You're dreaming. So to prepare for 2,000 points match play, yes, you need to be familiar with your army. Yes, you need to know the missions, but actually taking yourself out of your comfort zone and playing at different points levels, playing against different tech that you don't normally see, taking on the list building challenge in a different manner. All of these things will make you a better 2,000 points match play player, even though you're not spending that time actually playing 2,000 points, as long as it's as well as and not instead of.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, for sure.
Yep.
Well said.
Thank you. So, anything else that anyone wanted? Actually, I've got one for you, Michael, and Luke. How did you find the list building restrictions? The 4 battle line. You can take more behemoths, more war machines. Did you find that restrictive? Was it something you had to give a lot of thought to? Did you build a list and find that it worked, but naturally? How did you find that part of it?
Yep. Did you want to go first on this one, Michael?
Yeah, I'll go. So Ardfist was the last event that I went to with Nagash. I took him in the first cohort at 2,000. At 2.5, instead of taking skeletons, I took Black Knights. I took a Vampire Lord just on foot, and got to take some more endless spells. I found it more easier to fit the units. Worth like Black Knights are more dearer than skeletons, so you could fit bigger units, I suppose, within that battalion. I hadn't looked to take a Mortis Engine. We've got no other war machines to add to death, really. So the only other option would have been to take a Vampire Lord on Dragon, and I sort of didn't want to jump on that bandwagon as everybody else was doing.
Yep, fair enough. How about you, Luke?
Yeah, look, I actually find the 2,500 points to be probably a fairly large restriction for myself with the way I want to play me death. So I'd love to run Nagash and the Death March Battalion, but maxed out. So 120 skeletons, 30 Graveguard. But then I think of the realism of it and think, I don't want to set it up. I don't want to pack it up, and I don't want to move them. Yeah. I want to play the list, but I don't want all the little components that go with it. So it actually ends up changing what you want to do and then going back to just using units that are a little bit easy to use. So, yeah, for a big part, I think that is one of the challenges of it, that all of a sudden you do start to get into a level where you're potentially running that many models that it just becomes unreasonable.
Actually, Luke, because the practicality of it all is, well, especially for me from Cairns to go to events, you've got to have all that room in a case. All of a sudden you're taking 2 cases for bigger models, and then, it just adds up to your cost getting there to events.
Yeah. I'll do you a deal, Michael, just on that real quick. If you want to mail me down your army so you can actually bring some other shit with you, you can, for the Bush Bash, that is. I don't work for Australia Post or anything, so I don't know where the parcel's gone. Anyway.
Yeah. It's in South Australia, apparently, but you'd send it back to Rockhampton as well.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so look, in my case with Iron Jaws, it's easy because literally everything in the army is heroes and battle line. So you write your list out and you've met the requirements. and you don't have any war machines to think about, and yeah, behemoths are too expensive to cab out. So with Ironjaws, it's not an issue. That being said, when I've been writing 2,500 point armies for other armies I play, like Bone Splitters, like Mixed Destruction, like Gutbusters, likewise at 1,000 points, I've found it fits really well. It feels right. Sometimes you have to think about that fourth battle line, which, sometimes you should, but it's never felt too restrictive. And it's something that didn't change between the iterations of the General's Handbook we've had so far. And it's something that I don't think they will need to change for the foreseeable, because I think they've got it spot on, actually. I think it works really, really well. I think it scales well. And it and to me, it felt right. It felt right. How about you, Joel?
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? 2K, 2.5, even 1K. You just sort of build an army for like the point limit in mind. So what are you going to be coming up against? What's going to work better in smaller or larger games over other units? So I just really enjoy how your lists are just so different, and units like Skelly Warriors. I think, Luke, you want to talk about these guys a bit later on, but how like a block of them in 1K is really good, but then you throw them in 2.5K and you got one Exalted Grey Demon taking it off in the turn. So
how many was it, Joel?
It was 39 and a Linda.
From one model.
First turn charge.
I can do one better. My last game, Chris Welfare had a Bloodthirster of Unfettered Fury, doing the splash damage, did 18 mortal wounds in 8 inches, and did 40 normal wounds to my Black Knights. So,
cop that.
Rip.
Yeah.
So look, that probably does. Sorry, Pete. Look, basically, yeah. So one thing that actually does bring that into, so obviously it shows the difference between building a list for the different points levels. 2,500 points. Really, it is just a giant arms race. So lower points levels, you build for efficiency. Once you start getting into that 2,500 point level, you are building for the buffs. You are pushing for massive damage, and you're 2,500 point from your last tournament, Pete. That really probably showed it. Like, you come from an army, Ironjaws. Traditionally, I've learnt to almost disrespect them, thinking, yeah, Ironjaws, cool. That's a win for me. And then all of a sudden, well, it sounds bad, but it's true.
I'm in the same boat, mate. I'm in the same boat.
But then all of a sudden, you're faced with an army. It doesn't look that much different to what you'd normally see. Next thing you know, you've got an entire army with, 5 or 6 extra attacks per model charging across the board. It's got enough power to kill a full unit, which means the next unit can trigger. It has enough power to kill a full unit. And in the end, if I remember correctly, Pete, I had maybe 2 units left before I even got to roll the dice.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, it was. That's what the list was meant to do. It was. That's what I was hoping for. It was. That was the dream. Yeah.
I think that really sums up the 2.5K limit. Is it really is just it's an arms race. It gives you a chance to really get those buffs going, get the combat, and you can really, really have a crack at trying to get some power out of a list.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's very astute. So, moving on to 1,000 points, we did, to give a bit of context, we've had at Bendigo this year at Measured Gaming, we've hosted 4 5-round events. We've had BadgerCon, which was back in June, and glad to see we had some visitors from our friends at Realmless Gaming in South Australia. Welcome anytime, boys. That was a big success. We have our next one coming up on the 20th and 21st of October.
That's right.
Bush Bash Bonanza.
Bendigo's Bush Bash Bonanza.
Which, Michael, I believe you're making the trip down from Queensland to join us.
I'm looking into it as we speak. I'm still waiting.
Confirmed. Confirmed.
We had a deal, Michael. We had a deal.
Yeah, we had a bet, and you owe me a grudge as well. So. Yeah,
happy to grudge you. No worries.
So Michael's coming down, planning a submarine by the sound of it. Yep. And so we've had a couple of events at 2,000 points. We've also had a couple of events at 1,000 points. We had well, the first one we did was particularly successful. The speed dating at Measured Gaming, we had 30 people, which I believe is the largest Age of Sigmar event in the state of Victoria to date. It's bigger than any event that's been held in Melbourne. We had Danny came to see us, we had Justin, and then we had all of our friends from from Seymour, from Mitchellshire Wargaming. Again, you're welcome anytime, boys, in Bendigo. So we got a good turnout of people from right across the state. Pretty big event, like I said, 30 people, which is the biggest event we've had in the state of Victoria to date. And you know, it was a great success. And I think what that one brought home to me was you saw a lot of different armies come to the fore. That's what I enjoyed about it. I thought it was so across the year where we've got events at 1,000, 2,000, 2,500. I think it's a real test of generalship. I think it's a real test of list building. I think it's healthy for the club, and I think it's healthy for the people involved because it firstly it forces you to get your thinking hat on. You can't just do what you know works at 2,000 points, and secondly, it gives you something to think about at work. The challenge is it's like having a new army. It's like having a new army to work with, building the list at 1,000 points or 2,500. It really keeps things fresh, and it's fun. The 1,000 point event. I mean, you tell me, Joel. You run the club. What's your experience of what works for new players?
Yeah. So thanks for letting me into this. I did actually want to chat about it, but like Michael, he's going through this at the moment because he's starting up his own sort of scene, and I can tell you right now that people will not come locally if they're sort of fresh or new to larger pointed events. They'll come to the smaller ones because that's all they've got. And it's easier for them to get their head around list building and all that sort of thing. So if you're looking to grow the scene, run smaller pointed events.
Yep, for sure. And I guess as well, there's probably the intimidation factor. I guess people think they're swimming with the sharks at 2,000 and yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, what we found, and I think the results bear this out, different armies come to the fore. But fundamentally, and I guess a validation of 2,500 or 1,000 point events is that, to a large extent, there was a correlation between the most experienced players tending to do better. So the generals that we see tending to do well at our 2,000 point events also did well at our 2,500 points, also did well at our 1,000 points events. So it's still a game of Warhammer you have to win. It's a good test of generalship, if anything more so, because there's no net listing at those points levels to speak of. So we did see a lot of the same players doing well, which I guess validates them as being legit forms of Warhammer. But I think what was healthy and what was fresh was that we did see different armies doing well. And to be honest, at both points levels, as a destruction player for the last year and a half, I felt like I was pushing shit up the hill most of the time. At 1,000 and 2,500, I really didn't. I felt like it was an even playing field. I felt like I was not disadvantaged by not having modern battle tunes to the same extent, if at all, as what I am at 2,000. Actually, if you don't mind, guys, I'll share the list that I took to our 1,000 point event.
Yep.
Go for it.
Which was, as you can see here, it's 920 points. Reason being that the one that I took this to was just before the new General's Handbook came out. And at the time, I think it was about 980. So I did have a triumph as well. It has come down in points. I think if I was going to run this one today, I'd probably be tempted to put a couple of the board control spells in. So yeah, Prismatic Palisade and the Suffocating Gravetide. The other one you could do is the cogs, of course, but movement isn't as much of an issue for this, so much as board control and being light on bodies, and most of your bodies that you do have being particularly fragile. But what I would say this is probably one of the kind of the standard list building archetypes for 1,000 point, which is find a big ass kicker, build the whole thing around him, and then take a couple of cheap units of shit for your battle line. And actually, that's a point as well. You could fit in some Git Mob Grots as well if you wanted to upgrade the orcs slightly, which would probably be a valid strategy as well. We did see a lot of that at the 1,000 point event. I mean, so this particular army, I've got Ravager on the Fungoid Cave Shaman, because what I found and what I built my list for was that most armies would have some big threat, usually a big ass-kicking monster, sometimes a kind of a Death Star battle line unit, like Ben Murray at the club did particularly well with his, was it 40 Saurus Guard that he had?
Yeah, just a big block of them buffed in the shithouse.
So yeah, like a maximized battle line unit can be, it's effectively the same kind of scheme. Put 400 to 500 of your points of your army into something big, and then build everything else around it. So that particular army, it was the spear chuckers are there to soften targets up. You can charge in the hero phase with the destruction battle trait, do some shooting, and then hopefully charge again and get on the rampage going. So charge. And I did have again, lived the dream and had one of those games where split my shots with my spear chuckers, softened up a couple of death heroes, and went bam, 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 bam through the backfield and strung together 4 charges, killing a hero each time. So thanks for that, Hutch. Nice. Thanks for teeing that up for me. That was fun. But yeah, and Joel, you like when we talk about different armies coming to the fore, Axel did real well with his Beast Claw. And I think
so an army you don't even see in 2,000 points these days. Does really fucking well in 1K. My Brayherd Warherd does really well in 1K, like Brayherd before Beast of Chaos anyway. Yes, I think I got a first, second, and a third podium with armies that didn't even have a battle tome, just to put it into perspective.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think you were saying like that game you had against Axel, it was one of the most exciting games you've had. Like just trying to scrabble to contain the Stonehorn.
He got me, I'm pretty sure, in that game. But it was basically just whoever got the first charge. It was Beast Claw versus Warherd. So whoever was getting hit was going to die, but whoever was hitting was going to just triumph. And it was a good game. A lot of bloodshed. Yeah,
I do find that's the some of the 1,000 point games can come down to that, like who gets the first swing. But that's the challenge as well. You build your list around that. You try and set up for the counter punch. Have you got something that's got bonuses to charge or can fly over the top, things like that? So it's got its own little considerations and its own little meta.
It does. I feel that it's still rock paper scissory, but it's a bit more defined in 1K. So you've got, as you were saying before, you've got a monster and just build an army around that, like with your minimum of shit and a couple of support heroes. Then you can go full horde and still try and zone out. Then the other one's sort of like just a more elite punchy army like Ironjaws or Warherd, for example. But they all do well. And I don't know where I'm going with that, but it's just good. You can't. You go.
No, I was just going to say that. I mean, they're all valid things to raise because they are, I guess, a lot of the kind of the archetypes that people build towards, and you have to be aware that you're going to have to counter that. Like the Mega Boss and Maw Crusher, I gave him the Hammer Blade, which is a generic destruction artifact, and even with all the artifacts of the realms, I think I'd still give him that because it is the only and the ultimate anti-horde tool in the Destruction Grand Lines, I believe. For anyone who doesn't know what it is, it's a weapon that gives you within a 3-inch range. You roll a dice for every model. And every enemy model, and it does a mortal wound on a 5-up, so it deletes a third of hordes before you start swinging with the rest of your weapons. So obviously you replace your character's shittest weapon with that, and then away you go. So that would be the only way I could deal with something like 40 skeletons or 40 Saurus Guard. Hey, Ben Murray. How about you, Michael? Have you got much experience of playing at 1,000 points?
We had a 1250 event in our local G-Dub store. The week before RCGT, and I just took some models that I wasn't going to play with down there in store, and I did come dead last. But Ironjaws player won that event as well. He took Gore Grunters as his battle line and a Maw Crusher, and beat a Zeech player, beat Nighthaunt. So yeah, I'm probably same thing. Matchups are a big thing, no matter which point cost you play. But yeah, coming down to 1,000, I think it helps you become a better general with where you're putting things with low model counts and objectives.
I actually touching on that point, I really feel that Age of Sigmar, as we're all quite aware of, is a lot about movement and positioning. I feel like 1K really trains you for that.
Yeah,
Like, just because you don't have those expendable models.
no.
Yep.
It's unforgiving. If you make a mistake at 1,000, you're going to know about it pretty quickly.
Yeah, did you play that on a 4x4 or a 6x4?
4x4. Yeah, 4x4. And I just took a Terrorgeist, Arc, and 2 units of Skellies. It was got schooled.
Hashtag shit list.
Hey?
Hashtag shit list.
Hashtag can't play.
Well, there's that too. I was just trying to be nice.
But Luke, you mentioned the 4x4 board there, which I think is the way to go to 1,000 points. When I was chatting to you earlier, you had an interesting take on how you would go about building a list for 1,000 points, which is go.
So basically, there's a couple of now. Obviously, with the introduction of 2.0, summoning is now obviously a major mechanic in the game. Traditionally, it hasn't been in the past. Obviously, having to use the points for it, it really was null and void at that points level. So look, I have come up with a little bit of a Flesh Eater Courts list just to try something different that I'm hoping to try in a few games in the near future, just to try and really capitalise on the efficiency of the units. Now, one thing I will mention about this one, almost every 1,000-point list that I have seen in several events now, battalions are very, very rarely used. Obviously, the ability to chew up your points. So in this particular case, I'm actually using one. I'm spending 180 of my 1,000 points on a battalion, but the reasons I'll get to in just a second. So what I'm basically looking at here, it's going to be a Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist. He's going to be running the Grim Garland to get some minus bravery. He's going to be the General. He's got a Delusion, which is the Crusading Army, for some reroll charges, as well as he has the ability to use his command ability twice for the summoning aspect. We'll then have the, where are we? The Ghoul Patrol with 3x10 ghouls, as well as the Courtier. So, basic idea behind this one, it's a 2-drop at 1,000 points, which is, from what we've seen, quite rare.
Usually it's average 5 to 7, sort of. That's where you would be out of 1,000.
Yep. So basically where we're going with this, we have control of first or second turn because we're probably going to be outdropping our opponent. So the second artifact, we're making our little Courtier. He'll have basically any artifact that will give him negative to hit. So it's a little bit iffy on the first turn, obviously with so few units. But each turn, my ghouls, D6 extra models. So I'm spending me 180 points. I basically need to summon 18 ghouls to draw even points. Turn 1, you pop the command ability. You get 320 points of Flayers or Horrors coming into the board edge. They basically try and hold up your opponent long enough to try and summon as many ghouls as possible to start gaining board control. So that's not necessarily going to be the most effective list in the world. It should be a really good, fun way to just test the market.
I don't know, mate. I think it would be strong. You've got that combination of the deep striking and the summoning. I think it's a legit strategy.
What
I would flip the whole thing on its head. I would say it's bloody effective and absolutely not fun.
What happens to your list for the play total commitment, though?
The Ghoul Patrol can start on the table. If you elect to bring them in from the board edge, you can't actually add to the models on the turn they come in due to the timing. So if you leave them in your deployment to start off, you can potentially, if you don't think that you're under threat turn 1, you take the second turn. Don't get charged that turn because you've stayed far enough back. Get your extra models. If you shoot for the double turn, get some more models in that if you can get the double turn.
So the Flesh Eaters can go above starting count, can they?
Sorry? They can go above starting count, yes. Yeah. With the Ghoul Patrol, yes. Yep, so you can start with 10. Then each time you add to the unit, you basically increase your maximum amount. From there, if any die, you can then start using your courtier to bring them back, and then they can go back to that new amount. That becomes the new total.
Shit.
So
I guess that's something else that if we were to do 1K events down the track again. I actually haven't played any 1K this new edition, but going back to the rock paper scissors kind of list, summoning's going to be huge in 1K games.
Oh yeah.
Good shit.
Actually, and Michael, you raised a good point there as well about total commitment. I guess it's a bit of a tangent, but what do people think about that? Do you think it should be in packs or shouldn't be in packs?
Absolutely, it should be.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think, Luke?
Look, I agree completely. For example, even though it is not the topic, my new Nighthaunt list I'm working on, 2K, of course, it is heavily reliant on Deep Strike, but I've very, very deliberately written it so that it can work starting on the table. Because, of course it should be.
Yeah. How about you, Joel? What's your thoughts?
For sure. It just makes everyone have to build a list knowing that their army could be fucked up on one of the 5 missions. So they have to account for that. And if they go balls deep into deep striking, then that's on them.
I think that's spot on. And I think for my money, the best thing about Age of Sigmar 2.0 to date is the match play missions in the General's Handbook. I think they are fantastic. I think, like you said, Michael, I think it's kind of such a finesse thing. I suppose if you're a Stormcast player, you would say it's not finesse; it's a fucking sledgehammer to the face. But what it does to the meta is a finesse thing that it it really just puts that little twist there that everyone has to think about it. And it's not just Stormcast that it affects, but that one's fantastic. And I won't go off too far of a tangent, but yeah, go on, Michael. Yep.
Oh, sorry. I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but that total commitment should be in. It hurts more than just Stormcast. I can't put stuff in the grave as a death player. And, I mean, it doesn't hurt just Stormcast players or Idoneth players are the other ones who I think are having a whinge.
Beast of Chaos can't ambush. Like if I was to take the fucking whatever the thing is where I could ambush in like Thunderscorn and Warherd, can't do that. Yeah, it just fucks with the entire list.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think it should be in every pack, personally. I like it.
I agree.
Well, spoilers, it'll be at the Bush Bash.
Awesome.
There you go. You heard it here first.
That's good. So, anything else that anyone wanted to add?
Just the list building for 1,000 points. Luke's gone for an army that not every army can do that kind of mechanic, which is add models above their starting size, let alone bring models back at all, or even summon. We've got a Slaves to Darkness player up here who's just starting out. So he's done what you guys have already suggested, one big model that can hurt, and then several little battle line units as such. The only other thing you can sort of go for is something that can hit at distance, either via shooting or magic. You can get your mechanics down at 1,000 points with that, with your mages or gun line, depending on which way you want to go.
Yeah, the shooting aspect of it's an interesting one in terms of does that come to the fore more or less. I find that I tend to put more shooting in at lower points levels, and I guess that's because shooting's quite often either fragile or buff dependent, and there's less things that can nuke you at infinite range. So I hadn't really thought about it in those terms before, but that's probably a bit of a factor behind why I was doing what I was already doing. But I agree with what you're saying, though, Michael. I think Luke's list is very innovative. I like it, and we'll have to have a game at the club sometimes. Luke at 1,000 sometime. Luke, I'll take it on. Let's have a game.
No, all the bits are built. It can be played at a moment's notice.
Yeah, sounds good, mate.
Yeah, really, I think the real trick to building anything at 1,000 points, it's all about efficiency. So you've only got 1,000 points to spend. Obviously, if you've got the ability to summon, that's improving on your efficiency. But you can't really afford to spend any point where it's not going to have a positive benefit to your army. In the same way that you can't really look to split your design too much. So, for example, if you're leaving, say, 200 points back to guard objectives, you're only attacking with 800 points of your army. It's not necessarily enough. All of a sudden, the percentages, 80% of an army versus 100% of an army, all the numbers start not to stack up in your favour. So whatever tactic you go for, whether it's a summoning, a board control, a big model on offense, you just have to pick a strategy and go for it, because it is all about efficiency at that points level.
Yep.
Yeah, the thing I'd like to add on to that is, same thing. Efficiency is massive. I think no matter which point cost you go with, you need your heroes, or the points that you put into heroes, to be doing stuff for more than 3 turns. I came up against Adam at RCGT, and when you get a Mindlock staff, is it, for the Stormcast, hit you in the gash. I mean, I've got 800 points doing nothing in the hero phase, but standing there looking like a piece of terrain.
Nice centerpiece model that's doing fuck all. That's all you want, isn't it?
It was sweet, FA. So yeah, you need your heroes doing stuff for at least 3 to 4 turns of that game, and you need your units, like you said, running efficiently at some whatever job or role you allocate them.
And look, this is probably a good time to actually talk about something like in terms of unit efficiency. So the humble skeleton. This is one of the things that I wanted to discuss
Skeleton
over there.
Corner with Luke Ingram once every show.
Has this turned into a death show? Has it?
Apparently
It is.
so.
It's all 50% deaf players here. So 2,500 points, 39 skeletons, dead in a turn. Didn't even bother bringing the other one. Didn't bother saving him from battle shock. Just he's gone. Even at 2,000 points, look, a lot of things that can nuke a 40-man unit of anything in a turn. It just happens. At 1,000 points, all of a sudden that 40 strong unit, it becomes a lot stronger because there's a lot less power in what's attacking you. It starts lasting a lot longer. So in terms of the skeleton, I actually found a lot of success running 40, all 4 grave sites stacked on that unit. And then you're basically bringing back your 4 D3 every single turn, plus your heroes obviously adding to that as well. And just in terms of pure efficiency, you can't beat it. It just shows that in different points levels, a unit can be absolutely brilliant at one level. Once you move up into high levels, that same unit all of a sudden really almost has no purpose.
I'd still rate skeletons at 2.5.
Nah, mate.
Yeah.
Not in these traps.
He's only played.
I just want to say, Luke, that when I run my Slaanesh, doesn't matter how many points it is, 1K, 2K, 2.5, I never leave home at least without 1 big tits.
Only 500 points, isn't it?
440. They
440.
came down.
Jeez.
Yep. But yeah, it's fucking rude.
So to wrap it up, 1,000 points and 2,500 points. Healthy for the scene. Brings in new players. Yep. Great list building challenge. It'll improve you as a general. It'll improve you as a player. It'll improve the scene because it gets rid of net listing and you have to think on your feet. And having said all that, throw all of that out the fucking window. Come and play 2,000 point match play with us in Bendigo in October. Michael's going to be there. He's committed. He's locked in. Bush Bash.
20th grudge, mate.
Is that right? 20th and 21st?
20th and 21st, yeah.
Yeah. See you all there. Thanks again, guys. It's been a good night, huh?
Yeah.
See you all soon.
Catch up.
That's it, folks.